Yo guys, for today's video, I'm going to be covering on the comparison between River Green versus Promenade Peak. So rest assured, I'm sure this is your 10th video already looking at this comparison video. Today, we're going to be looking deeper into the comparisons, and at the same time, I'm also going to be covering on Zyon Grand, which is an upcoming launch at Zyon Road area. So in this video, I'll also be touching on some of the factors that you might be overlooking, especially if you want to look to invest into the CCR area and how this can potentially affect your long-term gains and also exit strategy in this area. For the outline of this video, I'm going to be doing a deep dive into the location, unit mix, site plans, investment potential, and also the future supply, especially for this area since there's quite a few plots coming up. And on top of that, I'm going to be touching on Martin Modern, Irwell Hill Residences, and also the M. So with these three resale comparison, we already know what is working in the market and what is not working in the market. So stay tuned. Alright, so first up, I'm going to be comparing the location, right, for River Green versus Promenade Peak. To be honest, between the two, there is not much difference, but for River Green, it's going to be slightly closer towards the MRT in terms of walking distance, and at the same time, the River Valley Primary School is also within 1 km. Other than that, both of them, the location is still relatively near to MRT, and going towards the CBD is really quite convenient. Okay, so next up, I'm going to be covering on the unit mix and also the target audience for these two developments. So I think this portion is quite important, right? So first up, we're going to have River Green. River Green, you can see about 20% belongs to the one-bedders, and then almost more than 50% belongs to the two-bedders. So you can see the one and two-bedders form about 70+% for the River Green unit mix. Whereas if you look at Promenade Peak, 1+ study already covered 80 units, and then for the two-bedders, we're looking at another 320 units. So this already forms 400 units out of the 596 units at Promenade Peak. So you can already see for these two projects, the developers are heavily skewed towards the smaller bedroom types. So let me explain why. They are potentially targeting the young buyers, investors, and even the HDB upgraders, especially for those that are looking nearer towards the CBD area, because in the end, for certain groups of buyers, they are still going to be quantum and PSF sensitive. So that's why the developers are creating the smaller, compact luxury unit types to appeal to this target market. But at the same time, right, when I see all this unit mix, it does raise a question or maybe some downside. You are potentially creating future competition for all these smaller resale unit types in the River Valley area. And also, this might not appeal to the genuine family that want to stay in the CCR area, especially if they need the spacious bedroom types. Because for these two developments, other than Promenade Peak, River Green definitely doesn't target this specific target market. So you may ask, right, why are developers actually trying to cater towards the HDB upgraders, especially in the CCR? So using the data we have from One Burnham and also One Marina Gardens, you can see that a lot of the buyers, actually a bulk of them, come from District 19 and D20, and a lot of them are OCR buyers looking to upgrade to larger units, which maybe the 3 bedrooms and above, especially in the CCR region. Now, so nowadays, I think developers also observe the trend. It isn't just for the ultra rich for the CCR, it is also increasingly becoming attractive, right, towards the HDB upgraders for those looking towards to CCR area. Now we're going to be talking about the pricing and also the value potential that I see for these two projects. So first up, you have River Green. You can see starting from the one-bedders already at 1.2 million, two-bedders starting from 1.5 million, 2 premium 1.72 million, 3 bedroom 2.25 million, 4 bedroom at 2.8 million. Honestly, when I see all these prices, I was quite surprised that they have managed to squeeze the 3 bedroom at the 2.25 starting from Quantum, and also the 4 bedder, they can still keep it below 3 million, especially for the River Valley area. If you guys have been looking at the CCR area, especially River Valley, I'm quite sure you know that you won't be able to find this Quantum, especially in the River Valley market. So that's why the developer, they probably have identified this gap and they are targeting towards the buyers that want purely the location, but they're okay with a smaller size unit. Whereas look at Promenade Peak, also very prime location. We are looking at the 1+ study, 2006 PSF from 1.4 million to 1.6, 2 bedrooms from 1.8 to 2.1 million, 2+ study from 2.1 to 2.5 million, and 3 bedrooms from 2.7 to 3.3 million. Definitely for Promenade Peak, the layouts are much bigger, so that's why the quantum is a lot more as compared to what we see at River Green. So of course, with all these entry prices for River Valley, it's going to be quite attractive to buy. So the first thing is, it's going to be very easy to buy, but is it going to be easy to sell? So for my clients, definitely I go deeper than just the numbers. The main thing is you want to compare what has already been proven and working for the River Valley area. At the same time, you need to compare how all these resale property can actually match up to River Green and even Promenade Peak. So this will also determine the long-term investment potential for River Green, Promenade Peak, and also how they can perform in the resale market in terms of exit liquidity. So stay tuned. So right now, let's look at the risk for CCR properties. First up, we're going to be having the investment potential and also the target buyer profiles, especially for this region. First up, for rental yield, right, I think for CCR region, especially River Valley, it has proven itself definitely very strong, having very strong demand from DINGs, foreign expats, so because they want the proximity towards the CBD and they like the CBD lifestyle. For investors looking at River Green or Promenade Peak as a pure cash play, right, it might not be so attractive because upon TOP, after you factor in the maintenance fee, property tax, agent fees, you might end up with a negative cash flow even if you get a very good yield for the rent. These are some of the things that you need to take note of, especially if you are looking at just purely a rental yield play or a cash flow play. The next part I'm going to be talking about is the foreign buyers dependence. So traditionally, CCR has been very heavily reliant on the foreign buyers because the quantum and PSF is a lot higher. But as of now, because at River Green and also Promenade Peak, they created very efficient layouts and also much smaller in terms of sizes, the quantum has been more palatable, especially for the HP upgraders or even the young buyers for their first home. So that's why I think for this foreign buyer demand, the developers has smartly mitigated this foreign buyer dependence. Last but not least, generally for CCR properties, the liquidity in terms of volume, right, is not as much as the RCR and OCR region because first thing first, the quantum and PSF is a lot higher, so you already narrow down your pool of buyers. Your exit strategy is a lot lesser as compared to the RCR and OCR region. Whereas for those two, historically the volume is going to be a lot higher because the quantum and size, maybe for 2 million you can get a much bigger unit, from 2-bedder become a 4-bedder. Yeah, so these are just some things that you need to take note of, especially if you are buying into the CCR region. Alright, so for the next part, I'm going to be touching on the CCR resale market and how these three developments, Martin Modern, Irwell Hill Residences and the M, actually fare in the resale market, and this will definitely be relevant to those looking to buy River Green and Promenade Peak for the upcoming launch. Alright, so now let's take a closer look at the 3-bedroom resale transactions at Martin Modern. So first up, you can see we have a very healthy number of transactions, especially in this development. We have a total of 14 past transactions in the past 12 months and only 16 resale listings in the market. Of course, for the resale listings, we could have duplicates in the number of units, but I would say for this ratio, number of transactions versus resale listings, very healthy. And you can see this quantum for the Martin Modern 3-bedders that are not cheap at all. We have the PSF from 2007 all the way to 2008, and for the bigger 3-bedrooms we even hit 4 million. So I would say for the buyers looking in the resale market over here, definitely quantum and PSF is not a big issue to them as long as the product is a good fit for them. So right now, right, let's take a closer look as to why Martin Modern still will appeal to all these buyers despite being a 99-year leasehold property. Now let's look closer into Martin Modern. Alright, you can see that this is TOP in 2021 and it's a 99-year leasehold. Land size, this is the one that stands out, 171,000 square feet. Plot ratio of 2.8, so not that high, and number of units is 450. So if you already can see the comparison, the large land size, right, of 171,000 square feet is only for 450 units. Then this actually translates to a land density of 381 square feet of land area per unit. And it's a very nicely done development because 80% of the land is actually towards landscaping. So if you in the market, you already know that for this kind of developments, a huge portion goes towards landscaping, right? When you enter the development, it's going to have the wow factor. It's going to be very nice and the livability factor is going to be very strong. Another crucial point why Martin Modern has been very successful in the resale market is because of the unit mix. So you can see for the 2 bedrooms, 764 square feet only forms 150 units. 2 plus study, 850 square feet, 90 units. So for the 2 and 2 plus study, right, they only form 240 units out of the 400 plus units at Martin Modern, and then the 3 and 4 bedders form the rest, which is 200 plus. So overall 450 units. The split is about 50-50. Here the unit mix definitely is more balanced as compared to River Green and also Promenade Peak. And for those of you that's not that familiar with Martin Modern, right, you can see this is also a very regular shaped plot of land. So this is very different from what we have offering at River Green. You can see they have a very grand entrance here, and then 2 towers, full facilities with tennis court. So overall, this is all the contributing factors that make Martin Modern so attractive even in the resale market, despite its huge price tag. In contrast, now we take a look at Irwell Hill Residences and we see why it is actually struggling in the resale market. Okay, so the first obvious reason is of course the upcoming launches. We have River Green and Promenade Peak, both a very attractive quantum and PSF with a very strong competitor towards Irwell Hill Residences. But now let's look past that and into the analysis for the site plans and also the unit mix. Okay, so here we have the Irwell Hill Residences most recent 3-bedroom transaction. There is only one since TOP. So this is a compact 3-bedder, 861 square feet, 3066 PSF, quantum is 2.64 million. And you can see over here at Irwell Hill Residences, there is one past transaction, which is the one I mentioned just now. And in the resale market, we have a total of 12 listings. Of course, there could be duplicates, all this, but even if we reduce it by half, we are looking at least 6 listings in the resale market, okay? And do bear in mind, Irwell Hill, they already TOP for a while, so this unit, right, could have been on the market for maybe a few months or even up to 1 year. Now let's take a closer look into Irwell Hill Residences. So you can see Irwell Hill, TOP 2024, okay? Land size 138,000 square feet. Plot ratio gonna be the same as Martin Modern at 2.8, 540 units. Alright, so you can already see it has a large land size of 138,000 square feet, but it is for more units, so 540. This translates to a land density of about 254 square feet of land area per unit. So you must remember this number versus just now Martin Modern's. And next up, we also have the unit mix for Irwell Hill Residences, and you already can see the similarity towards the River Green and Promenade Peak. Here are 34 unit 1-bedder, 1 plus study 102, and the 2 bedders, right, 302 units. So actually this one is quite concerning. So when we see River Green, Promenade Peak, is there anything that actually is similar in this sense? Okay, this is first point. Second point, look at the number of 3-bedders. Over here, 66 3-bedders, 33 4-bedders, so not a lot on the own stay side. So same thing here, very heavy on the 1 and 2-bedders. So next up, let's take a look at the site plan for Irwell Hill Residences. As you can see over here, actually the land plot is quite a regular shape. It's good, okay? So this is block 1 and then this is block 2. And then after that, you can see they have quite decent facilities. Tennis court, there's a lawn here. The drop-off point is going to be quite grand, and swimming pool. So these are all already very complete in terms of what I want in the resale market. Yeah, so overall, I don't think the site plan is the issue here. So you see, even at a very good plot, regular shaped plot, right, you also still have difficulty in the resale market. In fact, I had a viewer reach out to me on this recent video that I touched on Irwell Hill Residences, because this is gonna be quite relevant towards River Green, and I would say he's very lucky to have reached out to me. So my viewer, this Arsenal Solstice, very lucky he left this comment here. Do you think 3050 PSF for 861 square feet at Irwell is terrible? So my reply to him 1 month ago was that I will consider entering Irwell Hill now as risky, because word from the Wing Tai developers is River Green is going to be priced to sell. And imagine a more efficient layout near resale PSF. Which one do you think has a higher chance of capital appreciation? That being said, it also depends on the timeline and whether you can wait for 4 years. Not everyone is buying properties for capital appreciation. Some prefer location and cannot wait. And that time, there wasn't any 3-bedroom transactions. So I would suggest waiting for a River Green launch, as it's only 2 months away, and then we do a comparison in terms of PSF, layout, site plan, and also the quantum. So look what happened. So I'm very sad for this previous buyer that I mentioned just now that bought the 861 square feet at 3066 PSF, because I am very sure they will be already facing paper losses, because when we look at the layouts, if you compare, I think the River Green layout is a lot more efficient as what we see at Irwell Hill Residences. And also locality, this is going to be nearer towards the MRT, and on top of that, of course the site plan, Irwell Hill is better. Yeah, but overall, if you are looking purely to rent it out, right, then I think River Green does make a lot more sense in terms of the convenience for the tenants. Yeah, so luckily for my viewer, so for those of you that still have questions or that, maybe you can leave a YouTube comment, or you can reach out to me at my number 84849302. I am very sure you'll be able to benefit from this. And with all these upcoming launches, I also want you guys to avoid having all these costly mistakes. Okay, so now I'm just gonna put side by side for the Irwell Hill transaction versus River Green prices. Then you can see why actually the liquidity at Irwell Hill, the units are not moving. Okay, so you can see this 861 square feet unit, right, $3,000 plus PSF, and the price quantum is at 2.64 million. Of course, if you look at River Green, the 3-bedroom is only starting from 2.25 million, and of course maybe the size is a lot smaller for River Green, but in the end it's still very efficient. Second part is you have a price tag of about 400,000 difference, and the new launch is 400,000 cheaper. Of course, this is definitely a very different target market already, because the unit is smaller, so it's purely looking at those smaller families or even the investors and HB upgraders from the heartland areas versus what we see at Irwell Hill Residences. So definitely Irwell Hill, right, if you have all these River Green prices, I think in the next few months or even years, they're going to be having difficulty selling their bigger 3-bedroom layouts. Okay, so next up, I'm going to be covering on this previous development that Wing Tai has done, and this is also known as the M. So I think this is going to be quite relevant for buyers looking at River Green, because the pricing strategy likely is going to be the same. And now let's take a look, right, on the performance for the M in the launch day and also in the resale market. So first up, you can see Wing Tai sells 70% of the M over the launch weekend, and you can see the number of units they sold was 360 units, and this is at Bugis area, and during the ongoing coronavirus outbreak, so they actually sold an average price of 2,450 per square feet. And if you guys recall, at that time, this quantum, right, was unheard of in the Bugis area, because Bugis previously was like South Beach residences, and so all the quantum, right, was very big, especially for this area. But Wing Tai, actually they specialize in all these CCR, but they come in with very attractive quantum. So I think using the past success for the M, they actually want to replicate it for River Green. And I'm quite sure, looking at the number of checks and also the response for River Green, right, I'm very sure they will have this kind of very strong performance on the launch day. So this one is from the newspaper article as well. If you guys are familiar, during the launch day for the M, it was crazy because the COVID-19, they limit the number of people in the show flat, right? But this formed a very long queue outside the show flat, and you can see this was, I think, around the afternoon timing. Everyone was queuing up just to get a piece of the M. So definitely this was a very successful launch, because I think Wing Tai did a very good job on the pricing strategy, especially for a CCR land. So the first thing is, yes, it is going to be easy to buy the M and also the River Green. But now let's take a look at the resale performance for the M and see how it actually fares with the other properties in the resale market, because I'm sure you guys have heard all the OCR, RCR properties making a lot of profits. But let's take a look at the M and actually how it performed for those looking to flip the properties. Okay, so you can see most of them they bought on the launch day, February 2020. And then the second part I want to highlight is the sale date. Okay, so they are looking at 2024 to 2025 when they sell. And holding period, we're looking at between 4 years to 5 years. But to be honest, they have very modest annualized gains, because you see here, some of them even less than 1% over a 5-year period. And the highest one, we only have about 3%, and this actually recorded a profit of 236,000, whereas this other unit also recorded a profit of 250,000. But look at the sale price and look at the purchase price for the units respectively. Your outlay is going to be much more, but at the same time, you're not getting as much profits. So that's why when we look at the M, it's very similar strategy to what we see at River Green, and this potentially can happen to you if you're looking to flip. Of course, if you're looking for own stay, you're looking to rent it out, I don't think this is going to be that relevant for you. So do take note, I'm not saying River Green, the M cannot buy, because in the end, city living is for a certain group of people. It's not for everyone. Okay. So now let's look at the M in terms of the resale market and also the supply and demand analysis here. So this is all the bedroom types 1, 2, 3, and we have a total of 12 past sale transactions for the past 1 year. So this kind of equates to 1 per month. So right now, let's take a look at the number of resale listings. We have 221. Of course, there could have been a couple of duplicates. So assuming maybe half of it is duplicates. So right now we have about 110 units, right? If your unit is not priced well at the M, you will take about 110 months to actually sell off it. I mean, I don't know about you, maybe this is very exaggerated, but I do foresee the units being stuck here for a very long time, especially at M. I'm not saying River Green will have this exact same situation because I think for the M, the unit mix is slightly worse, okay? But overall, this is what I see on the ground. So I'm just sharing with you guys my observation, because in the end, if the development is not something you like staying or you want to sell it off, right? You want to be able to sell, right? If you stuck with the property for at least 1-2 years, I think still not too bad. At this ratio, 12 transactions versus 221 listings, I'm a bit worried for my own. I myself will be a bit scared lah. Yeah, I don't know about you guys, okay? So to sum it up, the initial strong sales, right, that is driven mostly by quantum, especially by investors, might not translate to the long-term success in the resale market, especially for the M. So I hope you guys managed to gain something and some clarity as to what I can see happening for potentially these two projects. So to help you guys visualize a little bit better, right, I'm gonna be putting Martin Modern, Irwell Hill, River Green and Promenade Peak side by side in terms of the land density. Then from there you can also see the numbers. Okay, so first up, we're gonna be having Martin Modern, 171,000 square feet for 450 units. So this makes up the best land density at 381 square feet of land area per unit, and the land 80% is dedicated towards landscaping. So the second one will be Irwell Hill Residences. So this land size is 138,000 square feet for 540 units, land density of 254 square feet of land area per unit. Next up, we have River Green. So River Green, right, it will be 100,000 square feet for 524 units. And also the land density will be 190 square feet of land area per unit. Last but not least, we have Promenade Peak. So Promenade Peak coming in at 99,000 square feet. This has 596 units. The land density is 167 square feet of land area per unit. So why Promenade Peak is a lot more than River Green is because it has 63 floors lah, okay? Yeah, so there you have it side by side for all the land densities amongst these 4 comparisons in the same area. Alright, so now let us address the elephant in the room. Let's talk about the future supply, right, and exit liquidity for River Valley area. And for this segment, I'll be using reference with the Lentor site because here you can see quite a few plots. So this is quite similar to what actually happened for Lentor in the past few years. And then from here, I just want to share with you some of my analysis. Okay, so over here we have all the Lentor units, right? Then you can see first up we have Lentor Central, Lentor Modern, Hillock Green, Lentor Gardens GLS, Lentor Hills Residences, Lentor Mansion and Lentoria. So here there's a total supply of about 3,000 plus units, and if you look at the remaining supply today, we only have about 10 to 20% left. Majority of the projects are already all sold out already, looking at 80 to 90% sales rate. The remaining units are, most of them is the one bedder and the very big sizes. Yeah, but most of them already sold. And can you see this actually happening for the River Valley and Zyon Road plots? Because you see here, they are quite close to each other. So for the River Valley area, also same thing happening. Gonna be quite close and definitely your resale competition in the future. So one thing I want to highlight, the main difference between the buyers for Lentor versus River Valley, right? I think for Lentor, most of them will be HDB upgraders and people that is more in the heartland area. But for River Valley, they're catering to, yes, some of them is the HDB upgraders, but it's a more specific niche audience for the CCR area that don't mind a smaller size unit. Okay, so this one you need to bear in mind on the exit, liquidity and the target market. So right now, let's go back into the River Valley area. And then you can see for the Parcel A, we have River Green, we got Parcel C, Parcel B, and then you got Promenade Peak, which is Zyon Road's Parcel B, and also Zyon Grand, which is Zyon Road Parcel A. I think this is going to be quite interesting because today, if you are looking for the first two launches, it's going to be similar to like maybe Lentor Modern, because for these plots, right, they are still cheaper than what's to come because the future ones are going to be slightly more expensive. I think the main thing I want to highlight here, it's probably Zyon Grand, because this is going to be launching in Q3 or Q4 of this year. It's a very interesting project. So the developer CDL, they actually has released some of the information and I'm going to share with you right now. So why do I say Zyon Grand is going to be quite interesting, right? Okay, so you see, so here you have two blocks of 62 stories, okay, and then you got one block of 36 stories which is catered towards the service apartment with restaurants, supermarket, and a childcare center. I think this is going to be quite important, especially if you're going to be buying even Promenade Peak or River Grand, because this definitely will be your resale competition. Okay, so here you got 706 units, and this is of course a 99-year leasehold. So here I think the main thing is the service apartment and also the retail component. Another thing I want to highlight that is quite interesting is the bedroom sizes. Okay, so here you can see the 2 bedrooms, right? You have the sizes ranging from 533 all the way to 715. I think this is definitely very interesting because I think some of the feedback I have on the ground for Promenade Peak is that the layout is a bit erratic. Okay, so why the layout for Promenade Peak is actually erratic? Because okay, I study real estate in NUS, so this is my major. For the higher blocks, right, I mean the higher floor units, they are the bigger units. So that's why you can see the 3-bedder, 4-bedder, and 5-bedder, the layouts are quite okay. But because they are all on the same building, right, and then you can't change the facade too much because it will change the structural support or that. So as a result, there are 1, 2, and the smaller 3-bedders, they all have to conform to the sizes on top. So this results in a very rigid in terms of the layouts. So that's why you see some of the 1, 2, and 3-bedders is not as efficient as what we see at River Green, because River Green, right, they just do the whole stack all the same sizes, but they don't have this flexibility for the Promenade Peak project. So this is just one thing to take note on the layouts. So now let's get back to Zyon Grand, right? And why just now I mentioned about Promenade Peak is because if you look at the layout, 533 square feet for 2-bed, 1 bath, I think it's going to be quite efficient, okay? And I don't see them being able to fit in a 2-bed, 1 bath if it is not efficient. So I think this Zyon Grand could have the best of both worlds. What I mean is, for example, you have the efficiency of River Green layout, and at the same time, you have a more bigger land size of like Promenade Peak. Because for this Zyon Grand plot, the size and the shape of the land is going to be quite regular. Yeah, so I think this will be quite interesting. Of course, we don't know about the pricing, okay? So as much as I think this is an interesting option, I don't want to hype it up too much, because if River Green and Promenade Peak is going to be selling very well, I don't think CDL is going to price it cheap for this development. So overall for Zyon Grand, right, if I look at the unit mix, it really does offer a much better ratio. Okay, you can see the 1 and 2 bedders, they form about 280, 290 units, whereas just on the 3-bedder alone, you already have 293 units, and then of course the bigger ones about 100 plus. Yeah, but out of the 706, I think this is a much better unit mix as compared to what we see at River Green and Promenade Peak. For Zyon Grand, CDL, they haven't released the official site plans yet, but they give you a sneak preview. Okay, so you can see this is the south view on the 40th floor for Zyon Grand, and if we zoom in closer, at the right hand corner, right, we have the site plan for this Zyon Grand. Then you can see there's one tower here, and then this one will be for the service apartments. So when I look at this overall development, I do feel like they're gonna be much more comprehensive in terms of facilities, because you see here we got a very big gap here, and then here also a very big gap. So I think in terms of what they can offer, it's gonna be quite interesting. But at the same time, you have to take note that this service apartment, you're gonna be having less exclusivity in the area, because I think for people buying in this area, I don't know if you actually value privacy more or you value convenience more. So I think it's a chicken and egg situation. But of course here, I just want to share with you guys that this is what I see at Zyon Grand. So right now, other than the unit mix, site plans, I want to touch on this car park thing. I think this is going to be quite important, because most of the buyers I look at River Valley area, most of them drive unless they're tenants. Okay, so I just summarize over here amongst the 4 developments just now when we compare, right? Martin Modern, it stands out the most because it has 1:1 car park ratio. Irwell Hill, 438 lots for 540 units. So this one comes up to be about 80%. Promenade Peak, also 476 lots for 500 plus units, 80% ratio. River Green, 266 lots for 524 units. So this one is the worst out of all at 50% ratio. So I don't know about you guys, but for me, when I serve some of the buyers at some of the new launches and even the bigger quantum area, right, they definitely want their own car park one. Okay, so that's number one. Number two is, if let's say we have units at like River Green, the buyer might ask me, hey, wow, every time if I want to go back home, is it I have to go and snatch a car park lot? I have to park near my unit or lift. It's going to be very troublesome. Of course, there's going to be a private lift option that's more attractive for this particular group. But if you just look at the ratio, right, what about for those units that don't have private lift? Then what can they do? And for River Green, they don't have this option at all. There isn't any layout that has the private lift. So everyone is going to be sharing the same lift. So I faced before buyers of this particular requirement. So I won't be surprised if River Valley, they also have people that require this kind of car park ratio or the private lift. Okay, so right now I'm gonna be putting the site plans of these 4 developments side by side, then you can visualize better. Okay, so first up we have Promenade Peak. So this one is a regular shaped plot of land. Okay, then we have River Green. So River Green is the only one out of these 4 that is going to be odd shaped because it's like very long, elongated. And then next up we have Martin Modern. So Martin Modern also regular shape because they are able to fit in quite a lot of facilities and it doesn't compromise the overall feel of the development. Last but not least, we have Irwell Hill Residences. So this one also qualifies as a regular shaped plot. So right now, just to sum it all up, after my deep analysis on all these projects, the main thing I want you guys to take away is that if you are looking at River Green and Promenade Peak simply because of its attractive quantum and entry PSF, then I think you need to differentiate yourself whether you are investor today or you are looking for own stay. Okay, if you are looking for own stay, then I don't think this part is going to be relevant for you. But if you are looking for investment, then I think you need to be concerned about the exit liquidity. So this is just throughout the whole video in terms of the site plan, pricing, and also your resale competition. So regardless if you are investor or own stay buyer, you can feel free to reach out to me at 8484-9302 for your personalized consultation. Looking forward to hear from you guys. If you guys like this kind of videos that I do in-depth analysis, you can check out my YouTube channel for other launches that I've done a similar deep dive analysis. And at the same time, if you found some value from this video, do leave a like and subscribe as it will help the channel greatly. Alright, looking forward to hear from you guys. Bye!